Hi and welcome to Wrong Way. And today you'll get my electric wheel, gyro wheel, mono wheel, EUC electric unicycle recommendations for the 2022. So let me tell you more about it. Wrong Way. Alright, so in this video I'll talk about my favorite wheels, my recommendations, the wheels that I know that people are happy with, the community is sort of happy with, so you don't have to nitpick, you don't have to find separate details on single videos. Although if you want to check out my reviews, because most of the wheels do have reviews on my channel, feel free to do so. So we'll have 10 categories of wheels in this video, as well as one bonus category that you'll find at the end of the video. If you want to purchase any of those wheels listed in this video, feel free to check out the links in the description. Sometimes there's affiliate links, sometimes there's coupons, so feel free to use that if you want to support the channel as well. With that said, let's get into it. Starting with the first category, which are entry-level wheels or smaller wheels. And actually there isn't really much competition for me personally in this segment because the Kingsong 14D really takes the cake in this category. It's relatively cheap at $900. By the way, the prices may change, so feel free to check out links if they've gotten higher or lower, or if they have a different price in your area. But anyways, in this price category, this 14-inch wheel is really great. It has a trolley handle, it has okay lights, the water resistance is pretty good, and I've actually personally owned a 14D for a while. My friends owned them, I actually gifted one, so it's also a pretty good gift if you want to make a present for someone. A 14D is pretty cool. The battery size is 420 watt hours, so great. It's a meme battery size, and depending on your size, weight, riding style, it can get you 20-30 kilometers of range. The top speed is 30 kilometers an hour, but I feel a lot more comfortable around 20. It has some good safety features as well. The charge port isn't hot, there's passive cell balancing. Now, it won't be like a wheel forever for you, and especially if, like, most of the riders tend to grow out of the wheels or they want something bigger, so at some point it will be not enough power, or if you want to do stairs, jumps, curbs, the axle won't be strong enough. But as a entry-level wheel, even with Bluetooth speakers if you're into that, LED lighting, I can't really recommend anything better than the Kingsong 14D. And also keep in mind that wheels are not at the stage yet where electric bikes are or electric motorcycles. So even though these are my recommendations, those wheels will not be perfect. They're still a pretty new product, so you have to keep that in mind when you purchase a electric unicycle. All right, let's get into the next category, which is children's wheels. And in children's wheels, there really isn't any competition, especially for smaller kids, 10 years young or even below. There is just the Bigode M10 III, which is now being replaced by the Bigode M10 IV. I tried the M10 III, you can check out reviews on that. Some issues with that, especially for heavier riders. You might have problems with air leaking because it's a tubeless tire, and the axle braking, super thin axles. But for children, was great, and now it's being replaced by the M10 IV. I didn't try this particular wheel for a longer time, but there really isn't anything else in this form factor as the smallest, tiniest wheel you can get. So yeah, the performance of this wheel, depending on the battery pack options, you can have 600 or 700 watt hours, top speed around 40 kilometers an hour, plenty fast. Wouldn't go that fast, probably I'll go usually around 20 or 30 kilometers an hour. The price is $1,100, so it's not the cheapest one, but you do get something really special, which is a super small wheel with a pretty decent battery size, pretty good performance. It's a 11-inch wheel, 11 being the size of the tire and 6.5 being the size of the rim, so you don't mix that up. But anyways, as said, in this category there isn't really anything else to choose from, so it will be the Bigode M10 IV or M10 III, which is cheaper and pretty good still. So if you want to save a buck, still get the M10-3. If you want the newest and most performance, more range, then M10-4. Now let's get into the mid-level category of wheels. So these are already wheels that can get you a bit further. You can easily go on, grocery shopping, make a bit of a longer ride somewhere, and it's not as limiting anymore as the 14-inch Kingsong 14D or other wheels in that size. And here again, Kingsong takes the crown. It's the Kingsong 16S for several reasons. But first, let me get into the specs. It has a 840 watt-hour battery, so pretty much twice the range of the 14D at around 30-40 kilometers. The top speed is higher at 35 kilometers an hour, but still, I would rather ride it between 25 and 30. And it also has a lot more performance, a lot more torque than the Kingsong 14D. Now, I didn't make a review on this wheel, but I've put some miles on it here in Vancouver, BC, thanks to Electronic Cycles, a dear friend of mine, Chad. Thank you for that. And while I was using this wheel really for the purpose of like a mid-level wheel, I wasn't missing anything. It has speakers, well, lights, okay, I guess, for the speeds you're going at, LED lighting on the side, trolley handle, lift switch, and everything sort of just works well. The water resistance is good too, although it doesn't have any IP rating, just like any other Kingsong wheel. So there are some minus points for that, but I also didn't have any issues when riding in rain. And for around $1,300, $1,350, it's a pretty good package and will keep you happy for a long time. And for some riders that don't need more, that want still a pretty light package, this wheel weighs, I don't know, 16 kilograms, 15. It can be all you need, so highly recommend the Kingsong 16S. But I also do have some honorable mentions in this category. It's the Emotion V8 lineup and the Emotion V10 lineup. Now, if you want a super light wheel, which also has a good trolley handle and some decent features, the V8F is pretty cool, especially as a beginner wheel, but it does lack in some departments, which is, first of all, it doesn't have passive cell balancing, which the Kingsong 16S does, which is good for safety. I fried both the V8F and V10 in inclines, well, worse, very difficult inclines, but still it's easier to damage the motherboard on the Emotion than on the 16S, on the Kingsong. And I think that both the axles and pedals are more durable on the Kingsong 16S. The V10F is an honorable mention because it has a bit more range, it's very sleek, it has a nice design, as well as really, really good water resistance. So if water resistance is the crucial point for you, then maybe you should go with the V10F. All right, let's get into the mid-high level wheels. And here, the crown again. I'm not being paid by Kingsong in any way, but my experience with the Kingsong 18XL has been a bliss. And keep in mind, this is not the newest wheel right now on the market, and there's plenty other wheels that came out in that time, but the Kingsong 18XL has been a staple of reliability, good all-around features, good safety, decent performance, although not out of this world, and a good price. So for around $2,000, you get a wheel that has a 18-inch diameter. Well, the tire, the rim is 14 inches. Although a bit narrow, I would really like a wider tire on this thing. It just has a 2.5-inch wide tire. But anyways, you can go 50 kilometers an hour, although here, again, I would go probably between 40 and 45. You get a decently powered motor, 2,200 watts, which will get you pretty much over any incline you will encounter in the city. And with its 1554 watt-hour battery, you can get a really decent range of, well, around 80 kilometers or even more, depending on your riding style. And this wheel, if you're in a city and you want to just use it all around the city, it could be just enough to get you anywhere, sometimes maybe with a little bit of charging. When it comes to features, just like the other Kingsong wheels I've mentioned, super ergonomic trolley handle, one of the best, a very durable shell, much more durable than the 16X, LED lighting, decent speakers, lift switch so you can carry it upstairs very easily, and all in all, just the body of the wheel is very narrow, so it's easy to maneuver, easy to do tricks, very nimble in the city. The lights are okay, but for what we have today and at this price point, I would really like something more powerful, because the lights on the 18XL are just okay, I would say. When it comes to safety, it still has passive cell balancing, just like the other King Song wheels. There's alarms for going too fast, alarms for a too high temperature. Anyways, in this category, I also do have some honorable mentions in a similar price level, and this is both the Emotion V11, Emotion V12. All right, let me just quickly get through that. The Emotion V11 is a great package of features, but just its reliability and ride is something that doesn't allow me to put it on the first place of recommendations. So there is suspension in it, but it doesn't have rebound. It can launch you off the ground if you go into a too big of a pothole or speed bump, as well as the ride. It's just not exciting enough, in my opinion. There were also some problems with suspension and bearings. Like, those issues get resolved over time, but still every once in a while something pops up. Also, I fried one of those wheels by, again, doing too many inclines in a row without any warnings. The V12, I really love the ride, and if you check out my review, yeah, I just loved riding this wheel. However, after a while, it turned out that they didn't use the right components on the motherboard, so they changed them. People had cutouts, and then they changed it again, and there was a problem with software. I had a cutout on the V12 HT twice. So when it does ride, it's great, but I just think the reliability is not there yet. Oh, and of course, there is also still no passive cell balancing, which will mean that your battery will degrade quicker over time, and maybe at some point you will need to go to a service station to balance those battery packs. Don't need to do that on the 18XL. All right, let's get into the high level wheels, or premium, or whatever you would call them. And here there can be just one winner, and it is, of course, the Veteran Sherman Max. And I personally owned a Veteran Sherman for over 10,000 kilometers. I've tried the Veteran Sherman Max, the review on that. I know it's taken a long time for guys, but soon it'll be there. But the Veteran Sherman Max is just a great all-around package. But keep in mind, with the rise of suspension wheels, it might be not the best comfort or safety when riding when it comes to general wheels. But I'll give you my suspension pick as the next category. When it comes to the Veteran Sherman Max, it is pretty much all that you'd want in a wheel, with great range. The battery is 3,600 watt hours, which will get you 130, 140 kilometers, maybe more, maybe less, depending on your riding style. Top speed is around 75, 80 kilometers an hour, but I just usually go 65 or 70 if, you know, the conditions that even allow me to go that fast. That's where the beeps kick in, which tell you that you're using most, or like 70% of the power. It is a 20-inch wheel, the rim is a 14-inch diameter, and it's an off-road knobby tire, which at this point I prefer street tires, but it's still great to use in everyday situations. For the price of $3,800, it's not cheap by any means, but I think that its reliability does make up for it. So there were some issues with that wheel. Initially with the Sherman, we had issues with the BMS, and with the Sherman Max, some motors, or a lot of motors, actually weren't sealed properly out of the factory. I think this issue is solved now, but other than that, this wheel is just bulletproof, and I have plenty of friends that ride this wheel pretty much forever, and they're super happy with it. It has decent lights, good trolley handle. It's not the heaviest, although it weighs around 37 kilograms, so also not the lightest. It's relatively easy to pick it up with the roll bar that you have on it. Good taillight, display. What else do you need at this price point? So the Veteran Sherman Max still comes highly recommended, plenty of torque, and probably when it comes to non-suspension wheels, best wheel around that you can get. All right, let's get into suspension wheels. And here actually my recommendation will be a very early product. So if some issues arise on the way, please be on the lookout for that. But I have ridden the Veteran Sherman S, which is like right over there, for over 500 kilometers. And when it comes to the ride and the overall package, I gotta say, it's incredible. It's very expensive compared to the other wheels on this list, for around $4,150, but you do get a lot. I know, compared to Big Goat wheels. Well, I think I think the price makes up for it. I don't know, maybe you decide. So this wheel has very similar performance to the Veteran Sherman Max. Same battery size, 3600 watt hours, but a bit less range because of the weight. I tested it around 110 kilometers. Probably can go 120, 130, depending on your riding style. Top speed is pretty similar or faster, and torque is also more than on the Veteran Sherman Max. So the performance similar or a bit higher, like trade some blows with the Veteran Sherman Max. But the biggest difference here is, of course, that it does have suspension, and the suspension is, well, I think when it works right now, it's the best out there on the market with huge travel, a lot of customization options. So you can set up the rebound, the preload, you can use a heavier spring or a lighter spring. With that, I mean for a heavier rider or a lighter rider. And when it comes to the ride of this thing, it's like a perfect sort of adventure wheel that ticks all the boxes, I think. It's not the fastest, it's not the lightest, it's not the cheapest, but I think it's just a good universal package. With that said, I do have some problems with bearings right now, so I hope this will get fixed in the future. And I don't know how sturdy the construction will be over an extended period of time, so this will be something to look out for in the future. But I just have the prototype now, so I don't know how this will change in the final production model. The pedals, not my favorite. The trolley handle, I could have a better one too, but it does have a good display, decent lighting, decent tail lights, and in general, I think it's a good package. But really, Veteran, please change those pedals for something else. With that said, I also do have a honorable mention in this category, which is the Bigoad T4. And this is a lot cheaper of a suspension wheel at around $2,500, but it packs a lot of features. Decent range, around 70 kilometers or so, decent performance, although this constantly changes because Bigoad is iterating so quick. Around 50 kilometers an hour top speed, decent performance, but where the T4 lacks, and in general the Bigoad T4 situation here, is that they had problems with motors initially, so they had to change the supplier for that. Then might be some problems with charging, or I know other issues that I don't know of yet. So this is why I can't recommend it on my first spot here on the suspension wheels category. But still, really amazing to ride. Nimble, small form factor, great suspension actually, really good. And yeah, that's the Bigoad T4 for you. Let's move on to the next category, which will be the best racing wheel. And when it comes to racing, I just think of one thing: Bigoad Master. The Bigoad Master performance is insane. It's a 134 volt wheel, it's extremely quick, and with the MOLLE cell pack I have inside, but you can also use Samsung 40Ts as high discharge cells, it goes up to 90 kilometers an hour, 85, 90 kilometers an hour. It's super quick, and if you do look at EUC racing, most of the time you will see this wheel there. Definitely takes the crown as a best racing wheel. It's super quick, tons of torque, top speed is set around 85, 90 kilometers an hour. Range, depending on the battery pack you choose, could be 90 to 100 or more like 60. And depending on your riding style, you can also drain it maybe 40 or 50 kilometers. But this is not really the concern if you're racing and you want the ultimate performance. It costs $3,250, and with that you get a 2400 watt hour battery, or you can opt in for a different battery variant, and then the prices also change a little. Trolley handle is good. The suspension is rather soft, although they make some iterative changes with every batch they do. But for usual cruising and not making too many drops or jumps, it's good enough. But you can also modify this wheel. I made a separate video about this particular modded Bigoad Master. All right, let's move into the next category, which is the best skills wheel, or the best wheel for jumps, tricks, and stairs, and so on. And no surprises here, it has to be the Kingsong S22. This wheel, like, have you ever seen Mike Leahy, Shibby Time, jump a huge jump? Probably he did it on the Kingsong S22. And the suspension travel of the S22, the geometry, how this wheel is laid out, is just perfect to do crazy stunts on, be it drops, being jumps, be it going downstairs, going upstairs. It's pretty great for it all. The only downside in this wheel is the lack of torque, which maybe they will fix in a future version of this wheel. Like, it doesn't mean that it doesn't have torque, but it just could be more like this wheel there. So when it comes to the specs here, a 2,220 watt-hour battery, which will give you around 80-90 kilometers of range. Top speed is 70 kilometers an hour, but definitely I would push this wheel a lot less than the Bigode Master. There's just a lot less of a power reserve, but compared to the Bigode, we have a lot more safety. We have a smart BMS, sensors in the battery, temperature sensors, of course passive cell balancing, but this is also in this wheel. Yeah, in general it's just like a lot more technology, but on the other hand they also do seem to have issues with the motherboard or the battery packs. It's all a work in progress, really. It's really also difficult to check all of the reliability issues of those wheels because there's so many of them. We have different distributors, different users, different use cases, so that's that. The asking price for the Kingsong S22 is around $3,150, and yeah, if you want a skills wheel, if you want to go do off-road trails, mountain bike parks, and as said, stairs, drops, all of that sort of stuff, well, the Kingsong S22 is the way to go. The next category is the best long-range wheel, and this is of course the Bigode Master Pro. It has the biggest battery at around 4,800 watt-hours. Huge, and the range would be probably around 200 kilometers in the usual sort of riding. Like probably you can even get it to 250, 300 kilometers if you ride slowly. Huge wheel, 22-inch. The rim is I think 17 inches in diameter, something like that. Top speed, I actually wrote it 90 kilometers an hour, not GPS, but the speedometer of the wheel. Plenty torque, plenty fast, non-plus ultra. Great seat. If you want to make long rides, just long rides, especially on the street, well, the Bigode Master Pro is just really the only choice here. Just like with all Bigodes, the safety, I think, is not yet on par with the other wheels. For example, there's still the hot charge port. There's passive cell balancing, which is great, but sometimes there's issues with balancing, I heard, with those wheels. Bigode just has the worst reputation for safety because they had so many wheel fires before. With that said, for the price of $4,600, which is quite a bit, you will get the best long-range wheel out there on the market. Now, the next category is the best wheel which is not made in China, and there's very little of those, and this is the one wheel. Now, the one wheel is very different from the gyro wheels or EUCs that we're using. You have a sideways stance, but currently it's the only wheel that is made in the United States or any other country based in North America or in Europe. I've tested the One Wheel XR and it definitely has some quirks, and they are rather cheap compared to those, but at the same time you get a lot less performance for the money. But then they're also made here, so you kind of have more reassurance about the quality. I don't know. In any case, they go from $1,050 to around $2,200, depending on the model you choose. They're still pretty cool. They're plenty fun. I don't think they're as safe to ride because of the smaller tire as the EUCs, but still, they do get my recommendation for a non-made in China electric rideable, self-balancing electric rideable. And now let's get into the surprise category, which is the ultimate flex when riding a self-balancing unicycle is not hipster enough. And this is, yes, it's an analog unicycle. It's super hard to ride this thing. It's very difficult to balance it, but once you get it, it can be very rewarding. It has infinite range. Just look at this thing spin. I just use my muscles. It's crazy. There's less bearing issues, at least that I know of, in the analog unicycle. I don't know if I should even call it analog unicycle. Unicycle, pedal unicycle. The power depends, of course, on your muscles, and you can be sure that there is less people riding those in your city than those. With that said, it's just a joke category. I really like this thing, and if you want to give it a try to see how difficult it is to do what those machines do with the computer, then go buy this thing. It's 100, 200 bucks. Buy a used, Facebook Marketplace, and maybe you will enjoy or not enjoy the time riding a pedal unicycle. With that said, this concludes my 2022 recommendations of electric unicycles, and if you're still here, leave a like on the video, subscribe to see more content like this. I'll see you in the next video. See you soon.